Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Skinner. I'm here with my friends Kenneth Nelson and Greg Cleghorn, and we are three Black Frat grads. And if you've been following us, you know that we speak about photography and how it affects culture. A lot of times it's commercial, sometimes street, and we cover a lot of different genres. Tonight's episode is What's in a Name?
Dun,
So,
dun, dun.
what this is about how you name a photograph affects the viewer. And so each of us have selected two photographs that we'd like to speak about today. And so, Ken?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Thank you. Now, this title, I know you guys can read it there, is Silver Cup Green Light. Now, this is just a photograph of the Silver Cup sign that's on top, above Silver Cup Studios in glorious Long Island City, New York. And I thought it was very
North
interesting
Brooklyn.
that it's Queens, technically.
Yeah, I
This
know.
this
North Brooklyn. Go ahead.
this particular sign is usually illuminated always in red, except on this particular evening, I noticed that part of it was green. And since this is a movie studio, I thought it was interesting that they had a green light. Now, those of you who follow cinema or film, they know that to green light something is to allow the movie to pre-produce. So I am wondering if this has anything to do with it. I hadn't gotten an opportunity to call and find out, but hopefully I'll find out soon enough. If maybe a viewer can type it in the comments and let us know, that'd be great. Anyway, what do you guys think of Silver Cup Green Light?
Well, I mean, I always get a kick out of driving past there. And, you know, I'm not a paparazzi, but if I were, that would be one place I would hang out because they do a lot of productions there, major motions. And the green light tea, I wouldn't have even picked up on that. I'm glad you pointed that out. Green light. Um, I mean, as far as our topic goes, it's kind of self-explanatory. It would be kind of hard to put a title to this because it actually says what it is. But it's a cool shot. I like that.
Yeah, Silver Cup Green Light. It, I guess for some people it might work, uh, but I'm not sure if it adds anything more than a description.
Hmm.
I see what you're saying. Well, when I titled it, because I tend to be a fan of commercial photography, I thought of the idea of a business to business advertisement in one of those ancient art forms, a magazine that would have that same bit of copy, Silver Cup Green Light, and then those in the know would specifically contact the information that was also in the copy, and they would say, "Oh, I've just had a production greenlit. I will call Silver Cup Studios and see what I need to see if they have what I need to complete my production." So that's the way I think about these sort of things.
Okay.
So even though it seems like a very regular photo, this
Yeah.
sign is so iconic. You'll see in other studios animated films, you'll even see uh, replications of this or signage that sort of intimates this sign because it's representative of New York.
Yeah.
So that's right.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
also, go ahead, Ken. Go
I
ahead.
get it. I think the term Silver Cup Green Light would actually be a niche title. That meaning that it would only be available or knowledge or no the little innuendo or notch would be a nod to
Mm-hmm.
those who know about it. And if you're a film major, I guess you would know that. If you're a movie major, you know that a production studio, you'd know that. Anybody else who doesn't really follow the ins and outs of studio production probably might not.
Hmm.
Right.
My thing.
100%. So
Go
you
ahead.
no, you go ahead because I was going to go on to the next picture, but you have something to say about
Oh,
this one.
yeah. For me, I mean, knowing where that is, it seemed. Did you? I don't know if you're gonna be able to answer this or not, but the only way, because that's like it, from what I remember, that's the view from on the highway. You can't really get that shot from the ground because it's you're shooting up at it. So I was just curious whether
Yes.
you know drove
No.
there, got parked on the side, got a couple of clicks, and headed out.
No, I did not have to stop the car. The car was stopped on its own. Unfortunately for me, I was crossing the street, crossing the river, the East River, that is, on the 59th Bridge on an extraordinarily trafficked day. So it was bumper to bumper traffic, and I was at a complete stop, and I just grabbed my camera from the side and then just rolled down the window, and at a complete stop,
Boom,
I
boom, bing.
took a photo,
And bada
and
boom.
that was it.
Bada boom.
And
Bada
for the
bing.
sake of complete disclosure, it was a little off kilter because it was a quick photo, and so I had to maybe about 3 degrees to the right, clockwise rather, to get it to look like it was properly oriented, and therefore whatever cropping needed to be done to get the rectangle after that 3 degrees. But that's really it with this. And I bumped the contrast.
I like it. I don't mind the dark space to the right. Kind of adds to it because it keeps you on the silver cup.
Yes, and that's where the copy would.
Yeah. It
Right,
works for
so
me.
Adult Magazine and filmmaker. There you go. No, ad and filmmaker. All right, there you go. Let's go to the next image.
Ooh,
And
runners.
right, for this one is very, 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 very much on the nose. This will be the Elite Women's Division. Oh, excuse me,
Is that
the Elite Women's Division runners of the 2022 New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
The entire title says exactly what it is, and these are the leaders in that pack. And if you're one who follows the sport, you will recognize at least Sharon Lokedi. I think that's how I pronounced your name. And then there's Lona Solpita, who's from Israel on the far right. The first person is she is from Ethiopia, and then also one more person in the center is, oh my gosh, I don't want to brutalize the name. Gotytom, please forgive me. Gebrezelazy. I should have, I just brutalized her name. It's Gebreselathe. Please forgive me if you're watching this. I didn't mean to do that. But I'm happy you got in third place. I'm glad to be able to get a photograph. 3 of the top 3 winners of the Elite Women's Division. And this is not cropped in any way, shape, or form. This was a complete street photo style capture as they passed where I was sitting on the route of the New York City Marathon. And I am just very fortunate and happy that I got this photo. If you were watching our previous episodes, you might have seen the photo I got of the men's division, where Evans Chibet looked directly at me, which was really phenomenal. But before I got that photo, the women's division, the Elite Women's Division, passed, and I was just really fortunate to get this group, and didn't realize I had all 3 of the top 3 winners until after the race, because this is about halfway through, and that's really it.
So, but you're not a fan
So the
of
title,
cropping, are you? Go ahead.
well, I only crop if I feel that I absolutely have to. I really am a fan of trying to get as much information in that frame, whatever the aspect ratio is, as humanly possible, because that's, I feel, part of the assignment, part of the gig, as they used to say. Mm-hmm. So in this case, I would say it was really just wonderful to be able to get everyone in this frame. And this is really kind of a lot like the aesthetic that we were studied in school.
Yeah, but ... I mean, the image is about the 3 women to the left, right?
No. Actually, they're in different positions. The second from the right, second from the left is the winner in the red. The second from the right, closest to the camera in the white, is the second place winner, and then the third place winner is the woman in the stripes. He's right in the center of that group. So first is red, white is number 2, and then number 3 the stripes, the black stripes, or green and navy. I think it's black.
Okay. Well, I know one of the professors at Pratt. I'm sure they've changed their aesthetics because they do it now quite often in major motions. They would say, "Oh, you're pushing the frame too hard. The person on the right is too close to the edge of the frame." But it doesn't bother me. I mean, they're in motion, so
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Use the frame. I mean, too close to the edge of the frame is kind of weird. It's like saying it's cut out of the frame when you don't know what's the outside of the frame is. It's like, if it's on the outside of the frame, you said you should have filled the frame with what was ever outside of the frame on the right. It's like,
right.
It's sort of like, duh.
Right.
Well, it does give you a sense that they're moving from the left to the right of the frame, and
Yeah,
that I'm lucky.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It says, and if you know anything about those elite athletes, they are pressing. They're almost sprinting the entire way. So, yeah, works for me.
I think for me, what really makes the photo, despite having the 3 winners from a photographic standpoint, not a journalistic standpoint, but from a purely technical standpoint, the fact that it's a full frame photo and the woman on the far left, her running shoe just is walking right on the bottom of the frame. I think that gives you a real sense of what's going on, even though the others, one of them their foot's cut off, one the leg is cut off, and the other 2, they're not, they're either in the air or someplace on the ground. That one leg, that one foot, the black and green sneaker that just hits the ground right at the edge of the frame. That's a really wonderful sort of artsy craftsy sort of artistic thing that you feel like you accomplished something.
Yeah. So Mark,
Go ahead.
the question I have for you is, so how you titled your photograph is really a caption. It's not a title.
True.
Would you say that?
Well, I think in this case, it serves as both a caption and a title. Now, if I want to take out the elite women's runner, or I can just say the elite women's division, or I can just say the New York City Marathon. And you can glean from the photo that it's the women's division. And if you know anything about the sport, you'll know it's the women's division. But I think because the information to say what it is requires that much, I could. I mean, I'm not being poetic. In the first one, I'm being poetic about basically a sign, a neon sign. I'm being very poetic about a wonderful neon sign, but it is a neon sign. And this is a group of women who I'm being very matter of fact about, who they are, where they are, and why what they're doing and why they're there in the title. And if it weren't, like I said, the elite women's marathon runners, you can edit it any way you want, but you don't get the whole story unless you put all of that information there.
Well, I could see Ken's point though, because once you break it down that far, it's no longer a title. It's a
caption.
Caption. I mean, if you said something, for example, if you said something like just speed, or Africa, or
Well, one of them is Israeli, so I don't want to say Africa.
Okay,
Right.
well, you could say
Running for the money.
Speed, or yeah, or
right. But those are great titles, but not the Africa one. But the great one, the great title is Speed, Running for the Money. Right. But I get your point. But in this instance, I wanted to say that you don't have to be very poetic, and you don't have to be clever about titling a photo. Yes, sometimes a caption really is just, I could just say runners in the New York Marathon, and that's a title. A caption and a title work interchangeably. And sometimes if it's popular enough, there's common usage, and people will give a photograph its own title.
So
Okay.
one thing for me about this, I forget the name. Oh, forgive me. The name of that artist that drew the figures with elongated arms in the bar or dance hall. What was his name? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot his
Yeah.
name.
I don't remember. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember
No,
his
you're
name.
talking
What
about as
about
well.
it?
Yeah, where the
Winslow.
figures are just Winslow. What?
You say
Anyway,
Winslow?
I know I thought you said Winslow.
No.
No, I thought you said Winslow.
But anyway,
I'm sorry.
uh,
Ken,
no,
what
I'm
did you
sorry. I
say?
feel bad.
No,
No,
nothing.
but my question was, I mean, because of your point of view, your POV is like at waist level, and you're kind of making them look like giants almost. I'm just saying and then with all the motion and the legs, you're almost exaggerating that sense of motion and strength and power in these, marathon athletes. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, they're very heroic, world-class athletes, and I was able to capture them only halfway through their task for the day. I'm with you.
No,
Yep.
but
So,
why did you
yes,
shoot it at that level? At like you're shooting up at them. Why did you shoot it like that?
You will find that with a lot of my photographs of people, I do have a tendency to try to make them seem larger than life and a little bit more heroic than they actually are. I try to see people in the best light that I can, and that tends to be how I photograph. Now, if I have a subject that is stationary, sure, I'll stand up and photograph them. But if you've seen my children's photos, you'll see even my children's photos. I tend to photograph them from low to really give you a sense of who they are, but also to sort of magnify their personalities. And in this case, shooting them from below allows you to see them as the heroic individuals as they are. I see them as world-class, incredible people who are just doing something really. I mean, I used to be a runner, but I never ran a marathon. I skated a half marathon, but I've never run a marathon. And I could not. I can't imagine running.
26 miles. Hey. Oh, better.
Yeah, I could.
I
I
was losing
think
daylight.
the most. Yeah, I couldn't do that. So that's it. But I think we spent a tremendous amount of time on my photos. Let's go on to someone next. Who is next?
I am.
Mr. Nelson.
All
Okay.
right, so Kenneth.
So I'll just preface this by saying that I usually do not quote title unquote my work, or at least my individual images, unless I'm posting to Instagram. For the most part, I quote title unquote a series of images. And so what I'm going to show you here is just one series that I've worked on. And so this is a series of, I'll show you two images of a series that I've worked on. And the title, of course, is, as you see there, The Space Between Us. And it sort of becomes self-explanatory as you go through the series. I don't know if I'll need to explain the space between us, but you as the viewer are probably going to notice the rationale for the title based on the image that is there. And that's sort of what I hope you do, because it's meant to influence you, because it is meant to influence you. And what I mean is that is it's meant to take you in the direction the way is which I want you to go. This is where I'm saying, go this way, not that way. So, because of course, as any viewer, they'll bring their own intuition into it. But I want to say, with this series of images, I want to take you to a specific place, and I hope you feel the rationale for why I'm taking you there.
What place is it that you want the viewer to go?
Well, if I'm going to show you these two images, and you tell me where you're going based on the title that I've given the image, and that's the second image. Let's say so. I've given you two images, and they're part of a series, and with the title, where do you go?
Well, I think for the first one, I think you get a sense of the space literally between the two subjects, the two gentlemen there. And for me, I don't get as much a sense of the space as I do in the second one, because the second one really is about a crowd and all the proximity they have to one another. You know, all the way from the foreground, all the way through to the background, from end to end of the image. That first one, I hate to do this to you, Ken, but that first one, what I really find myself concentrating on is the fact that the shadow formed from his sunglasses on his cheek. There's an arabesque there that mimics a handlebar mustache. And I think the handlebar mustache idea, it I find myself concentrating on that and being a student of art. You think that's Salvador Dali, and there's all these other things that I start thinking about because of the placement of that S curve. I get a better sense of the space between us in the depth. It's like a Japanese print, where you start at the bottom with the perspective and you sort of wander your way through to the back of the field by going up the frame. And I think that really, I think the space between us is really, it evokes contemplation from me in this. And so I'll let everyone else say what they have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. But I also like the fact that you've flattened the space, you've filled it with so much stuff that, you're trying to find a space between these people. And it's almost non-existent, but it's, oh my gosh, like an impressionist painting, where everything, they don't make an attempt to try to give you a three-dimensional space. It's two-dimensional. Everything is like right in your face, and good luck trying to find space between them. You can see that there is space in there, but in comparison to the figures, it's just the space between us is very, very limited. And it says New York, big city, overcrowding, and I mean, it may not necessarily be the truth, but it is a truth. And I like that. I like that series, and I like how that, plays out visually.
Okay. All right. I think one of the things that, as a viewer, that which you've both displayed in your explanation, is sort of kind of interesting because you've taken yourself out of the equation. You've removed yourself from being part of that photo. The title is, look at it, the title is The Space Between Us.
Okay.
So anytime you use the word us, that includes you and the viewer and what you're looking at. So so I've guided you to include yourself within that frame, but you've both taken yourself out of the frame.
Okay.
All right. And so because you've observed it as an observer and not as a participant. And what I wanted you to do is observe it as a participant. And one of the things about it is this first one is that you hardly ever see yourself this close to another person.
No,
okay,
definitely not.
Exactly.
They almost make me want to back up when I look at them, because
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, you're in my personal space there.
But I think the photographer, and to a certain extent at this point, the videographer, exists as the trusted guide, and therefore we presume that space between us is a curated space, and so we don't really have to think about it.
Okay.
As a viewer, I'll beg to differ, but I'll leave you to that opinion.
If you go to a gallery, the space between us, is it the space that's presumed by the cropping of the photograph and the depth of field that's illustrated by the selection of a particular lens, a particular selecting of focus? Or is it the space between the print on the wall and you as a viewer? I mean, I think you can extrapolate a lot from the space between us if you include the viewer as part of the space between that. And I think you're right, but I think most of us, the reason why we take ourselves out of that equation is because we do trust that the photographer is telling us something that they feel we need to know. And therefore, we presume that it's not about us. It's about whatever's within that frame.
Hmm.
Wow.
I kind of.
Okay.
Well,
That,
go ahead, Ken.
I
What's your
mean,
response?
if art is supposed to engage you, you by that description, you're disengaged from the art.
No, I'm a
Not
passive
necessarily.
recipient at first, and then I'm receiving information
Okay.
and interpreting information that I receive, but I'm not considering where I'm standing in viewing. I'm
You,
not considering whether I'm viewing, and in here, because I think you're right, because that's how all advertising today on these devices works. I mean, you decide whether, this is to be viewed optimally on a cell phone. Is it going to be optimally viewed on a laptop? Is it going to be optimally viewed in a cinema or a TV screen? So that's how advertising works today, because there are so many different two sizes of media to consider. That and the time. But but I think most of us don't tend to consider it.
yeah. Okay.
Would you?
I think you're right. Yeah.
So Ken, would you, in addition to titling these things, would you tell a viewer stand 20 inches away from the frame to really experience what it is that I want you to see?
No.
Like, would you?
No.
You wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't do that. I mean,
Okay.
no, because if we're just titling the work, then you're going to do it the way you want to do it. I mean, I think the size of the print or the size of the frame or the size of the image will dictate how far or how close you will stand, unless you want to get a detailed view, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. We know that standard viewing distance for an 8x10, 16 by 20, 20 by 30, 4 foot by 5 foot, 30 foot. You're not going to stand up close to a 30 foot image. You're going to stand way
I
back,
would.
right?
I would.
On an 8 by
I
10,
would.
you're gonna be much more intimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but if you go to a museum to see a specific painting, you go and you look, and at some point you look at the whole frame, then you look at inserts, bits and pieces of it, and then if it's a painting that you're viewing live, provided it's not covered in glass, you sort of go to the side and you want to see how the light reflects and what the brushwork is like.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think if that's part of your visual experience, it may not be for a lot of people who don't view painting, but for that's part of your visual experience. I think you're absolutely right in that when you are viewing a photograph like these, you're going to consider the fact that this proximity is so close in a sensory sense.
Yes.
in a way that we sense, the way that we experience these types of crowds, those of us who do, or did. I don't think there's a lot of this going on these days, but for those of us who did pre-pandemic, we do have ideas about what it's like to be within those crowds. But I think I suspend that sense and believe that whatever you're trying to show me is exclusive of my personal experience and that you have some new information for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Nothing in the world is new. We're just showing you the same thing over and over again. It's just my perspective of it, I guess.
I like the scarf kind of captures me because it's either really soft or really itchy, and it being that close kind of evokes that kind of a feeling for me. And the way you press and flatten the frame is just real cool to me. But that's just me.
Okay. All right. So that's my thing, guys.
And I think it must have worked because because I have a lot to say. I'm feeling the tension of being in crowd. So good work, nice work.
Sometimes it's fun to be in a crowd because if you just from a people watching standpoint, people, ugh, and especially when they're like real close to each other, some of them revel in it. Some of them are like,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool shot. I think I like that series. So, oh, is it my turn?
All right. So next up, we have Greg. What do you have for us, Greg?
Clean up. Well, I'm going to clean up. The space. Oh no, not that's your title. The space between us. Sorry about that. For me, what's in a name? I mean, and what do you want to say about titling an image? I'm kind of retro on this because I don't particularly like to title my photographs because I really get a kick out of letting the viewer see what they see, without guiding them into the image. I mean, like this one, I was very happy when I saw it. I just couldn't get the camera out fast enough to get this image, and I'm glad I did. And it's very minimal, no saturation. There was like a real Santa Monica sunset on a super clear summer night, I guess, twilight. And I didn't want to title it. I mean, I can understand titling it, but I try not to. Okay, I'm open. Go ahead, guys. What do you got?
Would you title it Untitled?
Would I title it Untitled? This is. I would probably not.
Okay.
I
Well,
think that would kind of.
that's like when I use the mobile app at a fast food restaurant and they say, "Valued customer." It's me.
Oh, so you have a title then? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Are you saying
no.
like
What
the
we're
image is
saying
kind of orphaned
well,
because it doesn't have a title?
So I guess your idea is that, well, what is in a name? I don't have a name for this.
Yeah, it's like because everybody's experience is different with every image. Some people look at
Well,
one artist and say, "Oh, he's misogynistic, or he's a romantic, or
well,
one thing or another."
I'm, is this? I'm presuming this is the Pacific and not the Atlantic. So I
Correct.
could be wrong,
Correct.
but I'm gonna
Correct.
presume that sunset. So I'm gonna ask you: is his day beginning or is his day ending in terms of his work day to sing and play?
That's a good question. Buskers. I do
Because
have a thing
usually
for
that.
buskers. What
Yeah,
was that?
well, I think that singers. No, I was going to say I think sunsets and sunrises usually communicate some sort of change in state of the subject.
Okay.
If
Okay.
it's part
I
of
can
the
see that.
image, if the image isn't just if it isn't just about the sunset itself, it usually should imply that there's some sort of change in state. When people ride off into the sunset, it's a change in state, right? They've gone from this adventure and everything's been resolved to the satisfaction of the person, and they can go on to another time, and they can have peaceful time or whatever it is, a happier time than when they started. But whatever it is, it's new. And in this case, he's playing his guitar and he's looking directly into the sunset. And the question then becomes for me as a viewer, what is the significance of someone playing the guitar at a sunset?
Hmm.
And so a title would help me understand what you're communicating.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Uh-oh. Go
You
ahead.
ready?
Here it comes.
Sunset Serenade.
Oh boy.
There you
See?
go.
You see? But what if he was terrible? I mean, the reality of it. That's a great, yeah, I understand that point completely. And you totally nailed it. But, for me, when you do that, as even though that's like I was going to say, hey, just throw out like bluegrass or something, or maybe he was playing some R&B tunes. I don't know. But the
Serenade
title,
is not indicative of a musical genre.
true, true. But just saying that it's that title and then locking it into this image, like Mark was saying, it helps me understand the picture. And then they're like, oh, I get it. And then they're on to the next image. For me, I want them to look at it and explore whatever they're feeling on their own, and then, go and ask them, what do you see? Because a lot of times it seems like every time I ask somebody what they see, they tell me something different than what I had imagined.
Okay.
I'd say 7 out of 10 times. Serenade, Sunset Serenade. I kind of like that.
I just
Well,
no.
But I mean, you could Sunset Serenade, Singer at the Shore, whatever it is you want, or Guitarist at the Shore. I think even a caption is helpful to understand not just what's in the photo, but what message are you communicating. The one thing that's interesting about titles is they do sort of give us a clue. They do provide some sort of guidance for a lot of people who aren't as intuitive about what you're showing. I mean, it's obviously person at the beach playing the guitar and singing, or not even singing, just playing the guitar. This individual might not even be singing. You would have to tell us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think anything indicative of a sunset has connotations and of romance.
It has its own connotation. Go ahead.
So I mean, it's generally anyone who's ever seen photographs of a sunset is probably going to go that route automatically. I mean, just like when we look at Stonehenge, or I'm sorry, what is it, Manhattanhenge, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It evokes feelings of emotion and romantic emotion for something that's a science. It's just kind of interesting.
I toughed that out one summer day, and with the hordes of photographers trying to get a shot of Manhattanhenge. Oh, for those who may not know, well, look it up. But no, Manhattanhenge is the sun sets. I think it was right on 42nd Street. I think.
East-west. Any east-west street.
East-west, right? Because Manhattan is on a grid.
But it's saying it's the one that they usually use because they have that bridge you can view it from more easily.
Right. There's an overpass bridge in that street. I think it is 42nd Street because it's right by the UN. So yeah.
Yep, it's by the East River. Was it Stuyvesant City or something like Stuyvesant Town?
It's called Tudor City. Tudor City overpass.
Hey,
right.
Stuyvesant Town is 14th Street. Sorry, Stuyvesant City is Tudor City. Thank you.
See, but
thank you, Tom.
So again, what's that?
That's how you can tell I'm not a Manhattanite. Tudor City. You're right. Thank you.
But that is the idea. If I title it for me, it takes away some of the experience of the viewer by telling them, like what was Mark saying? Guide them through it. I mean, I think part of the experience is exploring it on your own. That's just me. All right. Anything else?
Sure. You have another image?
Yeah. Just one more. I think I just have a silly mind because I almost got into an accident again trying to turn around to get this image. And it just, I mean, I could title it, and Santa's a perv. I mean, Santa the Peeping Tom, whatever. But I thought this was hysterical. I giggled myself silly when I saw this. I almost hit a car. I mean, well, anyway, it was lost. But I had to do a big old U-turn, and I was like, please be there when I get there. Please be there when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the image, but framing it was kind of tricky because if I just focused on upside down Santa, that what would the image be about?
Well, I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Right. Well, I mean, you're just being contrary. It's supposed to be about what's in a name, and you're just saying, well, what is in a name? So you weren't going to address titling any images. That's okay. The question,
not that that's a bad thing. I mean, I have done it, but I just don't particularly. Go ahead. What?
Right. Well, the question I have for this Santa Claus, did you get a sense that this Santa was at one point upright, or did you get a sense that the owner of the home or the person living there intentionally put that Santa Claus in that position?
That's part of the fun of not naming or labeling or titling an image. It lets the viewer have their own experience.
Right, and that's, I mean, but this particular. So do you think I mean, because it looks like the Santa was placed there on purpose so that anyone who passed that building would see that. Is that something that, I mean, that's what it looks like. I mean, did you get a sense that that's it? I don't get a sense that it's the feet are on the roof and it fell down, or maybe they did. I don't know. Can you tell?
Yeah, that wasn't my. I would, for me, whoever put him there, if it was intentional, I want to meet that person because they seem like they'd be a lot of fun to hang out. I don't know, and sometimes not knowing is what it was said. Was it Einstein? He said, "Imagination is more important than facts." You know, and that kind of resonates with me because, like, I have no idea, why or how he got like that. All I am basically is documenting the absurdity of it or the unusualness of it.
I
Like you say, the
I,
contrariness of it.
I think it's a very, very astute capture. I mean, it's pretty much an image that is certainly makes everyone kind of shocked at first. So uh, okay, I get you.
I think
It
I think,
asks more questions than it has answers to.
and I think that's what
Yeah,
causes the uneasiness, and there's a certain confusion for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, and those two particular things are driving the confusion as to whether at one point in time it was vertical or whether it was intentional to put it in this position. So
Right.
that draws the confusion for me, but which also continues to engage me within the confusion. So me trying to decide which way this was presented is keeping me watching the image to
Looking at
try
the
to
image
figure that
again.
out.
Okay. So you'll spend more time with it because something's
Yes.
not making sense.
Yeah.
And the title,
Well,
the title for me, the title is like a lifeline, or stare so that you can walk into this. I'm saying I'm not
right.
giving you any stairs or ladders. What do you see? That's where it works for me.
Well, it because the arms are extended directly up. I get a sense that that's hung that way specifically, and so that it's been affixed to the roof in that way. Uh, I I don't get a sense that you got a discovery of something that went horribly wrong when it meant to be something else, which tends to be sort of the curiosity of some street photography. If the Santa had its hands on its hips and it still was in that position, that would still be a little bit more. That would be more jarring because I'd start feeling for the resident, thinking, oh, they were putting a Santa on their roof, and somehow it didn't work for them, and no one's getting hurt, but at the same time, it just looks like now Santa's now peeking into the window, and that wasn't the intention at all, and so that has that sense of, uh, humor that is popular in photography. Okay.
Right.
This image just tickles me. That's all. That's all I got. So I wouldn't, just for me. I mean, it works for, it works, but for me, I kind of get a kick out of not titling. So what's in a name?
Right.
What is in a name? Like Mark said.
It's nice. It's nicely composed. I get a real sense of the space. I don't find myself looking at it two dimensionally. It's got dimension. It's got, Santa's right there. I get immediately to the punchline of the picture. It's well done.
Yeah, and it
Thank you.
speaks to a certain aspect of society. So it has
In
that
what way? What do you mean?
anyone who lives in a trailer,
Oh, okay.
right?
But
So
those
rural. I
some of
think it
those
speaks to
trailers,
ruralness.
some of those trailers are like 3,000 square feet. They're, if you ever been in one,
But it's
they're
still a
not
trailer.
a. Well, that's true. Okay,
It's not a
but it's a
house.
double.
It's
But
not a
it's a double
townhouse.
wide.
It's not an apartment building. It's a trailer.
but it's a double wide.
Okay.
Still a trailer. I get it. I get it. It has a connotation of a suburban or a urban, not urban necessarily, but rural lifestyle, like you said. So you would expect something like this there.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? That's all I got.
Well,
I just get,
truck,
kick out
truck
of it.
looks great. So,
Huh?
you know, all right. I said the truck looks great. No dings or anything. So that person takes care of what they've got. That's great.
But he's got a whole
All right.
batch of
Here we go.
tires in the back of the truck. He's like, who carries 4 tires in their truck?
Well, sometimes you need a spare and another spare.
True, true, baby. But that's one of the main reasons why I don't want to title it, because it lets you explore the image, you know, without restriction or guidance. You know,
I understand. You know what? That's fair enough. The title of the show was "What's in a Name," so you said, "What's in a name?" You're absolutely right. What's in a name? All right. I think we have exhausted our photos for the evening. Correct? Is that correct, guys? Is that it?
Yep.
We're done. All right. We have been Greg Claycorn, Kenneth Nelson, and I am Mark Skinner, and we have been 3 Black Pratt grads, and we still are.
still
And have a good night.